That's right, we're back at it again. Welcome back to the Greatest Attorney Chronicles. Or should I say, welcome. Special contents? That's right. Before we dive into the second game, we got to set some stuff here. Okay. So, judging by the polls we put out previously, we're going to use Iris's dress for Susato, but not for the first case of the second game. Sholmes, we're not going to use his alternate outfit for the main game. I might bust that out when I do the escapades after the second game. But, so for now, we're pretty much going to leave things as is. We're going to do Ryunosuke's suit, because that's cool as hell. Susato is going to stay in her normal outfit for reasons we'll find out soon. And Sholmes is just going to stay in his normal outfit, because he's the big goof. Alright. On that note, adventures resolve. The resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Let us begin. Susato.
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital. You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer. I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court. Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home.
I find myself faced with another awful crime.
So I came here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court. For the only time in my life. As a lawyer.
That's
so
right.
Please, I ask for your guidance. Kazuma-sama.
The adventure of the blossoming attorney begins. And we're back in the Supreme Court of Judicature. In Japan. Here I am again after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I feel so nervous. I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. Ah, good, you're here. Doesn't do for a lawyer to be late. Oh, yes, good morning, sir. I hardly recognize you. You got a fine figure, counsel. But you look as white as a sheet. And those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors, either. Oh, dear. The truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous, I feel utterly nauseated. I most wish that I'd never been born. Goodness, not the sort of thing a father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say. Yujin Mikitoba, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. A man who, earlier in his life, traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advances in forensic medical science. And of course, my brilliant father. Excuse me? Would I be correct in thinking that you're to be my lawyer in court today? Yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication, the whole thing. Ray Membami. Born the same year as I and my greatest friend, Ray Membami. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the University Research Laboratory, helping my father. And sadly, she's the defendant in today's trial, accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling all right? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to have become a little flushed. Oh my, it's just that you look so gallant and dashing. Sorry? And when I fall under your intense gaze, it makes me feel rather bashful. Aw. Goodness, I don't think she knows. She hasn't realized who I am. It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work. Oh, what do you mean, Professor Mikotoba? If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax. Disguise? Yes. I've never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? What? Is that you, Susato? I'm so sorry I didn't say something sooner, Ray. It's just that... No! What are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform, that varsity cap, that varsity cape, that varsity badge. Look at you. You look for all the world just like a student of the Imperial Yume University. A male student. I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see, it was the only way. The only way she would be permitted into the Supreme Court to take on your defense in this trial. My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated at having been born into this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women, even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom, despite the fact that the laws of the land apply to all people, male and female, alike. But women are forbidden. Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Susato, you'd go to such lengths for me? Of course, you're my greatest friend. I just worry that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. Oh no, I have complete faith in you. Ray. It's so strange, though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already. And yet, just because you're a woman, what a wretched reason. I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing. Ray? Please don't look at me like that, with those flushed cheeks and doting eyes. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just, you really do look so dashing. I can't believe my best friend looks so handsome. Yes, you mentioned that once or twice. You should be pleased. It means you look convincing as a man. I am pleased, I think. It certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. Ray, You're managing to put on a brave face in all this, but I can see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped, and how you're trembling ever so slightly. Susato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder. Of course. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that right? Yes. Yes, it is. Perfectly clean. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence. Which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end of this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side. Because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer. That means so much to me, Susato. Oh. Defendant, counsel, court's about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. You thought I was going to do my bailiff voice, weren't you? He's still in London. You should go in at once, Ray. If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty. Oh. Stand aside! I don't think I've ever seen her run so fast. Well, Susato, you've certainly surprised your father. Going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom, and with no prior experience of being a lawyer. There was simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming Ray doesn't know how it came to this? Yes, quite right. I've kept that information from her. I'd only worry her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take her case. I didn't want to burden her with that. And is it true? The reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take the case? Is it really because of who the victim was? We should be making a move now, too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student. Thank you, Father. I'm Susato Mikotoba, a judicial assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Great Britain. But 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan. There he is, there's the outfit. How many times have I wished that he were here, I wonder? Still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck, Naruhodo-san. Susato's great adventure begins. This court is now in session to hear the trial of Ray Mimbami. The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency. Defense counsel, are you ready? Yes, Your Excellency, we are ready. Ready! Ah, yes, counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryutaro Naruhodo. Is that correct? Sorry? Oh yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this little venture. So I'm afraid to say I simply put down the first name that sprung to mind. Well, counsel? Yes, that's right. That's me. Yes, I am Ryutaro. He who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan. It seems Ryutaro may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not overdo it. And those wild, wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen. Naruhodo. A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be? You may be thinking of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program. This is, his cousin. That's right. Ryutaro here has been studying in the provinces, but was called to the capital for this trial. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any of Tokyo's preeminent lawyers. Any of them. Tut, tut, tut. What a pitiful situation. Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused has had to call in a country boy. How dare you! Susato is every bit as gallant and dashing as any of your Tokyo attorneys. I won't have you making fun of her. Her? Please be careful, Ray. What an unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not. Ugh. I'm so nervous. Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, eyes are wont to flit. To flit and grow wide when under stress. The case to be heard on this day is a matter of great significance to our national interests. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may very well affect the future of our empire. Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yoko by the dock. Dear me. Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense. To determine whether you are sufficiently competent to practice in this courtroom. 9 months ago, when a certain other Naruhodo stood where you're standing now. The same judge tested him as well. And even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors. For a trained and experienced judicial assistant like you, this will be easy. So, counsel, you consent to answering some simple questions. Counsel? Alright, it's time to prove myself. Slap! Yes, Your Excellency. Please do make them simple. Very well. To start with, you will state the name of the victim. Whew, that is simple. I couldn't forget that if I tried. Oh no. Ah! I forgot. What's the matter? Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, minds are wont to blank. Well, it's not surprising, really. It's your first time in this position, and in that guise. Even a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances. Oh dear, this is a dismal failure. Don't fret. You need only use the knowledge you've gained as a judicial assistant to overcome the problem. Of course, the court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case in the court record. That's right, just use E to open the court record. You need to flip to the People section with E. Don't take too long over it. His Excellency is watching you closely. Alright, check the court record with E. So the information I need will be E. Postmortem report. Time of death just after 2 p.m. The death is believed to be due to trauma to the victim's lung from a knife blade. Only a single wound identified. Victim Giselle Brett. Female, British, as we saw from the intro. The intro didn't show that she was British, the intro showed that she was dead. Just to clarify. Time of death 11th August, around 2 p.m., ascertained by examination and witness statements. Cause of death, single deep stab wound from behind, piercing of the lung, resulting in a fatal hemorrhage. Death occurred within minutes. Extreme meiosis pupil constriction was observed in the victim in both. Interesting. E. Yujin Mikitoba. Ray Bimbani, 16. Giselle Brett. And Takatsuchi Ouchie. Good old Ouchie. Lead prosecutor in this case would appear to be struggling to accept the changes afoot as a result of these turbulent new times in Japan, the Meiji era. 9 months ago, she was found guilty of murder. Alright, this is our case. I'm waiting, counsel. What is the name of the victim in this case? Clearly, victim in this case is none other than Professor Yujin Mikotoba. What? Well, to be written off by one's own child. Father, you seem suddenly so much older and wearier than you were mere months ago. Because of you, clearly. The judge is asking for the victim's name, the person who was killed in this case. Look through the information in the court record again, carefully, before you kill me, for mercy's sake. Oh dear, I simply can't ignore that disapproving look. Excellency, please allow me to amend my answer. Very well, I will excuse this incorrect response given your wide-eyed state of panic. Let's kill Ouchie next. Mr. Helmet, the victim in this case is, yes, Prosecutor Takatsuchi Ouchie. What? Why the sudden triumphant cry of yes? Are you threatening to kill me? He seems angry. And you're surprised? Did you consult the court record? You must look through it carefully. Oh, yes, I did, of course. I looked at everyone on file. I chose the person whose features appeared to be the most deadly. I must say, this most unusual methodology of yours leaves me almost speechless. It occurs to me with renewed certainty that reading the information carefully is vitally important. I strongly recommend it. Oh dear, simply can't ignore that imploring look. Yeah, we have frustrated our father. We get an achievement for it. Your Excellency, please allow me to amend my answer. Very well, I will excuse this incorrect response given your wide-eyed state of panic. Alright, let's move on. It's Giselle Brett. Yes. The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Giselle Brett. Giselle Brett. A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our empire's judiciary, you will be well aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Why, then, is her name indelibly associated with our own empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. But if it's proving hard to recall the finer points, everything you need is included in the court record. Obviously, I still remember. It was the start of everything. Giselle Brett. Behind the woman student persona was the face of... E. A killer. The face of Queen Victoria, obviously. No, well...
Yes!
9 months ago, visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University was killed. And the culprit was Giselle Brett. Yes, she was a killer. At the time our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain. It was in the midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that the incident occurred. An Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, was shot dead. I believe he was an associate of yours, Professor Mikotoba? Yes, I was indebted to the man. He'd been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was the matter of the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted in here at the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial Yume University was arrested on suspicion of murder. A second-year English language student by the name of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense and exposed the despicable crime committed by Miss Giselle Brett. Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion. Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our empire's laws. It was decided that she would be removed to Shanghai, China, instead. Why Shanghai? There's a British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally settled only last week. All that remained of our empire's obligations was to see the woman safely on board a steamship. And yet, the very day before her departure, the Englishwoman was killed. Only the day before? That will do. I'm satisfied that the counsel for the defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant. Oh. Thank you, Your Excellency. Over the first hurdle. Now, a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Ouchie. As is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th August, in broad daylight. On the outskirts of the imperial capital, under a bright blue sky, at a secluded bathing spot by the sea. The incident occurred inside a small beach hut, erected for bathers to rest or change their clothes. The cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung. An injury which proved fatal. There were two persons alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death. Miss Brett, in her bathing attire, and the accused, Ray Bimbami. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider that she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady. She had a powerful motive? Well, the extraordinary description of events leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say. That's certainly true. The prosecution's summary was full of words that raise an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said about a powerful motive. Let's start there. You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement. Tut tut tut. Is the Yoko boy using long words he doesn't fully understand? I beg your pardon? No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we? Mbami-san, you are a research assistant at the Imperial Yubei University, I believe. Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikitoba in his laboratory at the moment. I can confirm that. The defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility. Fascinating to hear. Now, another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikitoba, whose research were you assisting then? Uh-oh. Oh, well, I was studying under John H. Wilson. Dr. Wilson? Visiting English professor who was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago. The accused had a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Dr. Wilson. Is that not true? Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man. Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him. Uh-oh. Well, obviously I was filled with hatred for what she'd done. A powerful hatred. Oh no, Ray! Be careful of what you're saying. Oops, the motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency. Well, it was clearly a trap all along. How wicked of him to use Ray's undying respect for her former mentor against her like that. Just find out more details and something we can use to bolster our defense. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel what he said about the bathing spot. If I may, Prosecutor Ouchie. What do you want, you fresh-faced young yokel student? I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot. Ha! My apologies. Clearly my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind. Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skins. No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. What the hell was she doing in a bathing spot? Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea? For old time's sake, I believe. What? Sorry? Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. And the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply. But what grounds would we agree to such a request? Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, we don't even... Seems we don't even have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal. And don't look at me, Professor. It was the government who granted permission, not I. In any case, it was decided that with a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong. But in fact, a murder took place. I said don't look at me. It was that young student girl who did it, not I. No one has proved that yet. I wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to. At this stage, yep. Round 3. Being alone together. Bobby-san? Yes? What is it? I mean, Naruhodo-san? I'm really starting to wish we'd made my alias Ryutaro Susato. Susato, you do look very dashing. Please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot with the victim in the first place, and why you were alone with her. Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present. A detective who was guarding Miss Brett, for starters. I was just asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all. But let's be clear. At the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there is only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life. No! Because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have an opportunity to dispatch her again. Kindly refrain from conjecture, Counsel. I believe we all have a clear picture of the incident now. Despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago, Miss Brett managed to avoid incarceration, instead continuing her research work at the university. Obviously, over that period, she and Ray would have encountered each other on a number of occasions. Seeing the murder of her mentor for whom she had such great respect enjoying such undeserved liberty. Yes, even if it was only temporary until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai. You could hardly blame Ray for her feelings of anger and resentment. Poor Ray. So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind as to peruse this exhibit. A photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident. Yes, thank you, Counsel. A tragic image. Oof. As you can clearly see, there is nowhere within the hut that anyone else could have hidden. Court will accept this photographic print as evidence. As I understand it then, the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. This is deeply troubling, I must say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant. Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case. We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime and damning evidence. Witnesses? But who? One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt. Very well then, counsel. Bring forth your witnesses. Here we go. I, Takatsuchi Ouchi, have been waiting for this moment. Sorry? Oh yes, I haven't forgotten. That trial 9 months ago, here in this very courthouse. When that irreverent little student boy utterly humiliated me. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. What? Yes? This insult to the Ouchi family name will never be forgotten. You've become conceited with age, counsel, but the old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that. Kazuma-sama! My top knot. Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut, and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that fateful day, my former self died. The start of your own mini Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing as well, counsel? Silence! Since I swore revenge back then, there has been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the Ouchi growth. You see, the seed of hope sprouting forth from the barren expanse of my crown. I think that tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where's the hope exactly? I said silence. Today I face another yokel student of the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you. My victory will be fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You have been warned. With that, the prosecution calls the witnesses to the stand. It looks like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. Prosecution and defense each has much to lose. A haircut is hardly comparable to Ray's life. It's his honor. Oh no. Oh no. Rosonaga and Soseki. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, but so I can go undetected. It's a beautiful disguise. Well done. And I am, well, next big thing in books. An author renowned throughout the capital, in fact. Yes. Soon to be sold out. Sacrificial, that's satirical. I'm a cat. Sensational success. By Soseki Natsume. Ooh, what? Oh my goodness. Struggling student from the provinces, please. You needn't be in awe of me. I needn't? It's only natural that you'd feel nervous in my presence. But all of you, please, relax. Call me Soseki, even. Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here? Tread carefully, Susato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? He exposes you for who you really are. This will be over before it's begun. Yes, of course, I know. Presume Soseki-san won't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget him. Though he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so that it's been since I last saw him. As for Inspector Hosonaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe. Do I have something on my face? A turtle? Well, your glasses for one. But they don't seem to be helping you see. goodness he hasn't recognized me either. Ah, I suppose it's this disguise, is it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. I suppose? It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present. What business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san? Ah, well, you see. I had been asked that day to give a lecture. On the morning of the incident, in the Imperial Yume University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less. At Yume University? After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the Medical Science Department. Professor over there, in fact. Like that? With Professor Mikitoba? Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. They wanted some story or other about the 2 former students who studied in Great Britain. Of course, being a renowned author, the press never leave me alone. They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and discover my privacy. As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. Read it at your leisure, my provincial, struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies. Thank you very much. You practically threw that paper at me. The Soseki Natsume article has been entered into the court record. Oh, boy. Anyway, following my interview with the professor, the lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go, everyone. I should like to go, everyone, with everyone and to see your country's coast. Those were her words. As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory under strict surveillance, of course. At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her. That detective, I am at liberty to divulge, was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga. Thereby, the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems. It was extremely challenging to clear all other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately, I'm at peak physical fitness at the moment, so I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Oh my, Inspector, well, you do have something on your face now. How unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean you went to the beach too, Father? No. Fortunately, I had work to finish off. But unfortunately, of course, meant that as my assistant, Ray was invited to take my place. Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. But only if I had. I'd never have seen that awful sight. Breathlessly, racked by remorse and regret. Very well. I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. You will give an account of all that you have witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast. Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret, I am. Poor Soseki. At least you're not on trial this time. Witness testimony. No cut-ins. Witness scene. On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me. I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question. Yes! That young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand as she stabbed wildly. I saw blood in the blade. It proved to me that she'd stabbed the victim multiple times. Well, there's her objection. Indeed, it does appear from this testimony that both witnesses here present saw it. The very moment of this heinous crime. What? Now, if you recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah, yes, that was it. Damning evidence. What have you there, Counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, her final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. What? Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more. Ah, goodness me. Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately in her hand. That's right, the fountain pen. And if you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. Ah! The owner's initials have been engraved into the ebonite barrel. R.M. Ray Mbami. The initials of the defendant. No! Oh, thunk. This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as critical evidence. R.M. So, have I admitted anything? Decisive testimony and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel. I don't understand. Prosecutor Ouchie of 9 months ago had none of this man's poise. He really is a changed man, I guess. Counsel of the defense, you may begin your cross-examination now. Naruhodo-san! Naruhodo. That means... Oh, yes, me! Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom? Actually, there's even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom, but you don't need to know that. Cousin Ryotaro, pull yourself together, please. Alright, I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Find inconsistencies in the witnesses' testimonies to prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer would handle a cross-examination. So let's see what I can do. Ah, there we go. There's the cut-in. The day of the...
Hold it!
All right, we're starting out right out. We're starting right out of the gate, in that jaunty disguise. Correct. Wait, no. I mean, it wasn't the first time I've worn this swimsuit for a dip in the ocean. It's tried and tested. Do what must be done to keep the Englishwoman under surveillance. Those are my orders that day. And this tried and tested outfit was the answer. Being able to blend flawlessly into a crowd is an important part of a detective's job. Then, I submerged myself in the salty water, leaving only Mr. Turtle floating inconspicuously on the surface. Mr. Turtle loves the water. Thank you, Mr. Turtle. But there was no need for you to blend into the background on this assignment, really, was there? If that made you late arriving on the scene, I think perhaps you had your priorities wrong. Perhaps I shouldn't pursue this line of questioning any further at the moment. Love the concern in that expression. What were you doing, Soseki-san?
Hold it!
You're describing the victim's scream, presumably, Soseki-san? In more literary terms, you might say it was a scream that could have pierced the heavens. Kya! Or the like. Of course, that's just a metaphor. We renowned authors are wont describing things, so... Soseki-san wasn't at all like this in England. Anyway, I spun around at the noise, and the beach hut immediately fell under my gaze. Yes, the beach hut. This area is popular with government ministers. Many have seaside retreats there for rest and recuperation. Locals are prohibited from entering the area, so it's always very quiet. The beach hut is a simple structure, erected as a place for people to change or take refuge from the sun. Although the Englishwoman commandeered the hut for herself, which meant that I was forced to change into my swimwear on the sand. I imagine that was rather embarrassing for you. Well, anyway, I tossed the crab aside and headed for the beach at a run. Or, in more literary terms, I decrabbed and beetled off hutwise. Decrabbed. We need to incorporate that word into our vocabulary. Because I love that. Decrabbed. Oh shit. Missed a statement.
Hold it!
Wait, by pair, you don't mean to say... But how could that be? No, you must understand. Obviously, I mean the victim and the defendant, Raymond Bummy-san. Oh. Would have been helpful if you could have just said that from the outset. If you jump to conclusions, you have to expect to fall flat on your face sometimes. Dear me. Putting your hopes on such an outside chance. Foolish. Very foolish. Really was an outside chance. I just wish I realized that before I said something silly. So, Inspector, why don't you tell the court how exactly you found the aforementioned pair in the hut? Well, it was a sorry sight. A real grisly scene. I parted the northern curtain hanging in the doorway and stepped inside only to see the defendant leaning menacingly over the lifeless body of the victim sprawled on the sand. My glasses very nearly cracked at the ominous sight that met my eyes. How thoroughly appalling. Doesn't appear to be lying there. Well, Soseki-san, can you confirm what Inspector Hosonaga is saying, I wonder? Ah, you'd like a literary man's opinion. Well, allow me to deliver. Yes, that young girl was astride the Englishwoman, and dagger in hand as she stabbed wildly.
Hold it!
Dagger? Stabbed wildly? You actually saw her do it? Oh, indeed. A terrible spectre. A terrible inspector. The Lily Torrent. The author's torment. Eek! Every sight and every sound is still carved in my melancholy memory. That is my impression, at least, as a future literary sensation. Counsel, what on earth was that shrill, effeminate scream? No. No, what are you insinuating? I'm as manly as a Japanese man as you. I wonder if I might interject here, Soseki-san. Something you said is troubling me. That was my impression from your words just now, I believe. That eye twitch. So, do you mean to say you're not confident that you really did see what you described? Twitch. No! I mean, yes. I know what I saw! My ears didn't deceive me when I heard that scream. Hence my eyes didn't deceive me either. I could describe everything I saw vividly. I could publish it all in tomorrow's newspaper serial. It sounds as though the next installment of I'm a Cat may take a macabre turn. I think this is a fool's errand. The more we press your author friend on what he saw, the more entrenched he's going to become. Oh dear. How awkward. I just want to examine this. Why are you karate chopping? Professor Mikitoba. Bicycle Man? What is this? This looks like he's actually having fun here.
Hold it!
Alright. She was stabbed multiple times. How can you be sure of that? Very simply. From the blood on the blade. The blood? When I entered the hut, I saw the defendant holding the blade raised up in the air. Yes, that's right. I saw it too. Oh. I noted that there was blood on the blade already on that point. In other words, the victim had already been stabbed at least once by the time I arrived on scene. Yes, that's right. I saw it too. No, you didn't. The victim was already holding the defendant's fountain pen in her hand, too. All of which means I can be sure the victim did not die instantly. That confident smirk. Yes, right, I saw it too. Okay, Suseki-san. Maybe a year in London was too much for him. He sounds like he's forgotten how to speak Japanese. Logic of your argument is sound, at least. Well, as I said, it is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Perhaps it should have been your guiding principle to protect the victim flawlessly? That's just my personal opinion, of course. Counsel, you will refrain from mocking the witness. Oh no, I just have so many thoughts whirling around in my head. It's all I can do to stand here, wide-eyed and mute. Goodness, my dear. You really must try to calm down. But how am I supposed to find an inconsistency in what these two gentlemen are saying? Don't see why either of them would have any reason to lie. What you must remember, I think, is that witnesses may inadvertently lie at times. For various reasons. A misunderstanding, a mistaken observation, a delusion, or even... a delusion. What's important is that we determine the truth. There's only one sure way to do that. Yes, with evidence, of course. Spoken like a true judicial assistant. During witness testimony, you can use E to pick a piece of evidence to present for consideration. So you need to listen carefully to each statement and compare what's said to the details of the court record. You find some conflicting information that may be the inconsistency you're looking for. Yes, it's all about inconsistencies. Once you've identified a witness's statement that appears to conflict with a piece of evidence, present the evidence to the witness stand with R, and the way ahead will present itself to you, I'm sure. Yes. All right then. I'll consider the details of all the evidence in the court record against each statement to find an inconsistency. I'll remember to the task. Don't forget that you can have the witness repeat their statements as many times as you like. Everyone has to start at the beginning, remember. So those wide eyes are quite forgivable. And besides, there's no one else to defend the poor girl. You're right. You need to listen to the testimony again from the start. What about the tutorials? The cross-examination tutorial is both optional and not presented as a choice. So if you know how to play these games, you can just go through and do your testimony like normal. If you're new to this, you can go through and get the help on how to do the thing from Papa. Anyways. Only a single wound was identified.
Objection!
Finger point! That accusatory cry that just welled up from deep inside me. I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed. Whoa, what's the meaning of that menacing pose, Counsel? Oh yeah. I'd like the witness to clarify something for me. Who? What? Where? When? How? Not you, Suseki-san. This query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga. At me? Your statement just now. You said that the victim was stabbed multiple times. Yes, that's right. As I said when I entered the hut. The defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon. And yet, that cannot be. What? Get to the point, please, counsel. Ah, there's the book. In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only. Ah. Hmm? In other words, Inspector Hosanaga's testimony is clearly flawed. Yeah! Susato gets her own objection theme. Ah, and Toseki-san. Me? You claim to have seen Mamami-san in the throes of stabbing the victim. Yes, I did. Wildly. But both you and the inspector confirmed the same point. That there was already blood on the knife that you saw the defendant holding. Yes, and? It's quite simple. You know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there is no way there could have been blood on the knife if that single stabbing hadn't already occurred. Ah, true. What exactly is your contention, Counsel? Are you ever going to tell us? Yes, Your Excellency. It's only one logical conclusion. What Soseki-san in fact saw was not the moment the defendant stabbed the victim at all. The moment that the defendant, in fact, withdrew the blade from the victim's body. That were your wording, Counsel. That cat. I mean, it could be an innocuous statement. It could also mean that she stabbed him. She stabbed her and was pulling the knife out at the time. So, B. Excellent work, Susato. You exploded at them with that objection and then proceeded to pull them apart systematically.
Objection!
Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in that trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child with a half-baked objection attempting to steal the show. You're right. There were certain similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair. That slander! My head is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all this talk of stabbing and withdrawing and multiple wounds makes not a jolt of difference. What? Why not? Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged the deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. It was that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade, ready for her next strike, the witness saw. The knife was already tainted with blood because the accused had already stabbed the victim. Ah! All you have successfully shown with your little display. That the mustached author is prone to moments of extravagance. Ah! I am in agreement with the prosecution. The defendant was seen wielding the blade at all. That is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion. But what if she was withdrawing the blade? Then we are back to where we started. Sorry? Consider this, young Yoko boy. If the student girl is innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim? With a demon's cold-blooded composure, too. Prosecution demands an explanation. It had better be good. Why did Ray pull out the knife? Ah, yes. Going for the jugular. What does Father mean by that? Let the court hear your answer then, Counsel. The truth is, I don't really know. I have to come up with a plausible reason here. I don't have a case. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could... Well, there's an obvious answer here, that... Seems to be where we want to be going here. According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant. That's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury. Indeed, giving her the time to take hold of this piece of evidence that clearly indicates her killer. The point is, being a medical research assistant, Membabi-san was compelled to act when faced with a wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life. Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem this is the best we can expect of this young yokel. Indeed. Just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder in here? Your Excellency, if I may. Speak, witness. I would like another opportunity to testify. In respect to the slipshod assertion just put forward by the yokel defense counsel, I mean. Slipshod? An excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel hopeful has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense. Very well, Inspector. I will permit your request. You will testify again before the court. The subject of the defense counsel's assertion. Yes, sir. I will do so flawlessly. Forensic medicine primer. Ooh, interesting. I think we'll save that for next time, though. Save over this. There's certainly quite a lot blossoming in this case so far. We'll see how Ryotaro does in saving her best friend. Next time. The Greatest Attorney 2. Resolve. Until next time, until then.